This week on the Chef's Cut, we are kicking off a 3-part series on hospitality. So be sure to keep coming back because we have Drew Nieporent, legendary restaurateur who made Nobu a global name. We also will be joined by Simon Kim, who changed the steakhouse game worldwide with Cote Korean Steakhouse and his new concept, 𝗂𝗂𝗃. But today, we're talking about Joe's big nomination. Joe, you were nominated for a James Beard Award that time that he worked front of house for Top Chef Restaurant Wars.
They don't let us take a lot, but this is our guest book from Conifer.
And I'm going to the walk-in to spill some tea on my restaurant that came this close to happening. The restaurant was under construction. To this day, that space is sitting empty. But before we get started, Chef's Cut Nation, we need you. Please rate and review us wherever you get your podcast. It really helps, and we so appreciate all of your help keeping this thing going. Well, Joe, we haven't done a series in a while, so we are going to make this part 1 of a 3-part series on hospitality, because coming up, we're going to talk to 2 of the biggest names in hospitality, 2 people who have created restaurant groups that have a distinct culture, a distinct concept, a distinct identity, and both of them are completely different, right? Drew Nieporent is a fucking legend in hospitality. Helped put Tribeca on the map. He made Tribeca a neighborhood. He partnered with Robert De Niro to open restaurants. But one of the things that Drew did that I was like most impressed by after reading his book was he was the first person to put a chef's name on a menu. Before that, chefs like toiled in anonymity. It was just like, oh, I've got this great chef. Maybe you read about them if a New York Times review comes out. But he made sure that everybody knew who was responsible for the food. And he picked talent. I mean, he was the first person to bring David Bouley to New York. And then all the way to like Tracy Desjardins in California, who was one of his chefs that he had. He has picked some of the most phenomenal chefs to lead his restaurants, and then he built restaurants around that chef.
Yeah, and I think that Nobu fellow, he linked up
Nobu,
with,
right?
He did pretty well for himself.
Yes.
And he's still kind of a scrappy up and cupboard, but I think that guy's done well.
How do you forget about Nobu? Oh my God. I mean, he has an eye for talent, and he has such a lasting impact on restaurants. I mean, he was the first person to make you leave a credit card to hold a reservation, to manage the fact that people would no-show and restaurants would lose money when that happens. He just has such a cool story, and he is more retired now, but he had like 40 restaurants during his career, and not a lot of people nowadays know who he is, but he also won. This is the through line in this series. Drew also won James Beard Outstanding Restaurateur. And this year, you and Simon are both nominees. So that is our Outstanding Restaurateur series.
Yeah, and I think it's cool because like Drew, you have somebody who's done it for over 4 decades, right? You know, almost 5 now. And then you have Simon, who's kind of one of the new up and comers, who it's like, I think also like always, like at least as an outsider's perspective of New York, like thinking of like trying to really get into that scene, like build, you know, not just a spot, but a group.
Yeah.
Is like, oh, wow. Like that seems like a massive mountain to climb. And like, you know, that Simon kind of burst onto the scene and with something that feels so familiar, but was so outside of the box at the time.
Right.
Right. With Cote, and has built like this just monster brand now that's worldwide. You know what I mean? He has restaurants, you know, in New York and Singapore and Vegas and Miami. Like it's crazy that he's built that and that he was able to see, you know, a need for something that, you know, in retrospect, you know, kind of like we were talking to Nina, it's like, it seems obvious now.
Right.
Like, but, you know, at the time it was like, well, nobody else saw it.
Right. And it's so crazy because in New York, we had people that were innovating with Korean cuisine. We had 𝗫𝗄𝗃 Kim, 𝗫𝗃 Kim. We have these chefs who were doing new age, modern Korean cuisine and reaching back to traditional dishes and framing them in different ways and applying different techniques in some instances, but nobody thought to do it with Korean barbecue, right? That is something that every line cook in New York after work, K-Town near Penn Station would be open till 3-4 a.m. So instead of getting like wings and mozzarella sticks at a shitty dive bar, you could go to K-Town, get banchan, which comes with all these different vegetables and lettuce wraps. And then the meat is grilled right there. So you actually feel better about yourself, you know, instead of like taking shots of whiskey and beer all night long.
Shots of soju and drinking beers all night long. I've never felt better about myself.
But you're having much better food.
Yeah, I'm having a much better time.
A much better time because you have better food to soak it up. And you're eating something that feels fresh, not just like, you know, frozen mozzarella sticks that get dumped in an old grease, you know, fryer.
The ones in Chicago used to be open like 24 hours. And I don't know about the ones in New York. I've had a couple late ones in New York, but there was like some small ones in Chicago where it's like the OG ones, where it's like they were open late, and if you were the only table in there, they just locked the front door and they'd let you like smoke cigarettes under the hood, like while you were like partying. It was the coolest.
But Simon created that upscale Korean steakhouse, and he took that concept and identified that missing part in the market, because up until then, steakhouses were largely, you know, old school, dark wood, red velvet, same format, pretty much same dishes, copy and paste, but you had some updates here and there. And then he came on the scene with Cote doing something completely new and fresh. And like you said, built it into this global group, and then opened 𝗂𝗄𝑑ok doing Korean fried chicken as well. So it's so cool to have the three perspectives from Drew, who's done this for like going on 50 years now, to you and Simon, who are creating groups now and having an impact in the markets that you operate in. So I'm really excited for this series, because this is something that we don't talk about enough, is the restaurateur's perspective and the hospitality side. So we got to get some more front of house people on here too.
Yeah, I guess we do, huh? I guess we got to show some love to those.
I know,
those
right?
Front of house people, you know.
My mom worked front of house. You've got front of house experience. Like, you know, we got to get our brethren up in here. It's like I see front of house like pastry. You don't need to specialize in it, but you need to have some skills in that arena. No matter what kind of cuisine you cook as a chef, you need to have a working knowledge of pastry, and you need to have a working knowledge of hospitality.
Right. Tony used to say, you got to know just enough to be dangerous.
Ah, I like that.
You know, it's like, you don't really got to know it, but you know enough to be dangerous.
I don't know if our listeners are all aware of this, but there was some really big news announced last month. Joe, you were nominated for a James Beard Award for Outstanding Restaurateur.
I was. Yay! That was absolutely insane. I mean, just wild, right? And I was actually on the phone with you when I found out.
Yes,
we were on a call, me and you, and so that was really, really funny. So it's kind of like we got nominated together at the same moment.
I know. I mean, I'm totally nominated. I mean, I'm a restaurateur.
Yeah, I assume, you know, if I make the short list, you'll be sitting there next to me. So
100%. Congratulations.
Thank you. And I love the idea of a hospitality series. I think it's such a fun an important part of what we do. You know, thinking of myself as many things, but I think like restaurateur is kind of the last one that comes to mind of like what I do, even though it is what I do, right?
Right.
It's like I think of restaurateurs and you think of, you know, the big ones, the greats. Simon Kim at Cote, who's going to be on the Rich Melmans, all these people out there. And it's like, you know, it's still, I think sometimes weird to be like, oh, like I'm a chef who's considered in a realm of other chefs. And I know you feel the same way.
I mean, that's so cool, but it's so different because you're not just a restaurateur, you're a chef restaurateur. So I'm really glad that we're going to have your perspective, but also then talk to Simon and Drew Nieporent, because they both have completely different perspectives, because they find the talent for the chefs that are going to run their restaurants, where you are the talent. So we'll get into that a little bit later. But Joe, I really want to know, because it is kind of like a nebulous term sometimes, and there's no like one definition. But to you, what is a restaurateur?
For me, it's like, you know, you're driving it, right? You're the creative behind, not just like, there's one thing about being the creative of a menu. When someone tells you, you know, we've both run other people's restaurants before, right? You know, whether it was, you know, Red Rooster when you're running for Marcus, it's, you know, Marcus coming to you and saying, hey, we're going to do a 30-seat fast casual chicken restaurant in Harlem, like gives you all the checks and you're like, all right, cool. I know how to write a menu for that, right?
Right.
It's one thing, I think, in the restaurateur, it's like you're the one creating the box. You're creating everything. You're, you know, building not just a menu, but you're building a space, you're building like a vibe, you're building a whole little mini world of like, this is what this place is going to be. Getting to create a restaurant from the ground up. What is that bathroom going to be like?
Right.
You know what I mean? What does the front door feel like? What is the music? What is the interior? And, luckily I have great partners who, we all work on that together, and we have our things that we're all, weirdly specific about. My two partners, Frank and Kara, like their thing is the lighting.
Lighting. Kara is all about lighting.
Right? They're both. It's like lighting. And I'm like, do all the lights have light bulbs in them? Great.
What's the thing that like gets you going? Is it food related? Is it front of house related? What is like your obsessive point?
I think for me, like I'm obsessed with the hospitality of it. Like obviously I'm obsessed with the food, but that's like, you know what I mean? The bare minimum as a chef, right? Like, of course you're obsessed with the food. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's like hospitality, I think, is number one, of like making sure it's like we're just being like kind when people walk in the door. The two biggest things that are like probably not on a lot of people's radar and they don't realize that I obsess about is like the host stand and the bathroom.
Yeah, you mentioned bathroom tile and the host stand.
And I think like, the host stand, like, just from like somebody always being up there to like, when we get backed up there, one of my managers, they'll see me looking at the door because I'll see like a crowd gathering and they're like, wait, we got 2 tables getting up. We're moving them in. Like before I could even ask, because they know exactly what I'm thinking.
That's true. I hate when you go to a restaurant and there's nobody there because you're standing around like, can I just go to the bar? I don't know. Like, it's like this moment of like, okay, I'll wait, but how long is it going to be? And it kind of sets the guest experience in a weird way when they first walk in the door. You're right.
Right. It's like walking into somebody's house and you can't find them. And you're just like walking around. You're like, hello, you told me to come over. Like, where are you? It's such an important first impression. It also last impression. Whenever I'm up there, I'm always like, hey, thanks so much for coming in. Have a good night. And I'm sure we miss on it sometimes, but it's one of those things that it's like, I obsessed over. And then like the bathrooms. And it's like, I do this in other restaurants' bathrooms where it's like, and the hope of like, it's a good karma paying it forward thing. Like if I went into your restaurant and there was like water on the counter on the sink.
Oh yeah, I wipe it off.
I'm wiping it down. I'm picking up the extra paper towels off the floor, throwing them away. You know what I mean?
I grab a paper towel and pick everything up from the, I do that too. That's crazy. Because my mom used to do that. Because
I'm like, maybe someone will do this for me one day. You know what I mean? Maybe that kind stranger out there will see, give it a little wipe.
The bathroom karma will come around.
But those are the two where it's like, I think is like really weird things for me, just completely crazy about.
Yeah, I mean, that makes such sense though, because it's like, you're right, when you have a guest at your house, and that's how restaurateurs and that's how people in hospitality, that's how they look at guests coming into a restaurant. It's like, I'm inviting you into my home. You're my guest. I want to provide this incredible level of hospitality to make you feel welcome and warm and transported from whatever your day was like into our environment. I don't care how many times you've been to my house. I'm not just like, bye, peace.
Yeah.
And then you just see yourself out.
You know where the door is.
Right.
One of my crazy things is like with my crew, like with like friends and stuff. If they come in and they don't say hi when they get there, like for dinner, like if you're coming in on your day off and you're having dinner and like you sit down and you're getting into dinner and I'm like, what's up? You don't come say hello? They're like, oh, you were busy. It's like, so what? Come say hi.
But see, I'm apprehensive about that too. Like when I come to Rosemary,
that's crazy to me.
Everybody's on the path. I'm like, I'll walk by like kind of like quietly like, hey guys, or I'll wave from a distance. Like I'll see JoJo like at Bar Tuto, or I'll see somebody in the background. Who's the guy who looks like Daniel Day-Lewis?
Oh, Sean.
Sean. I saw him at Bar Tuto and I'm like, he was cranking back there. I didn't want to interrupt service. So I just like, I'm looking back at the kitchen and he caught me looking and I just like gave him a big wave from across the room.
Listen, I understand that. And that's what people always say. But this is my counter to it. If you came to my house, you would not like have dinner first before saying hi to me. It would be an insane thing to do. You wouldn't like walk in, eat something, use the bathroom, like do a bunch of things, and then be like, "Oh, hey, what's up, Joe?" Like,
right,
how long have you been? How long have you been in my house? You're like, oh, like 2 hours. It's like, what do you say? Hello, you weirdo.
You're putting the kids to bed. I'm not gonna bust up in your kid's bedroom and be like, "Hey guys," like, no, I'm gonna wait till everything is settled down.
If I'm putting the kids to bed, why the hell did you just show up at my house? That's like, yeah,
Okay.
if we're closing and you're like,
Right.
oh, I'm gonna like bust in, it's like, dude, like it's too late for this shit. What are you doing?
Okay. I tried to justify my behavior and the behavior of other people. But from now on, I will just come straight to the past. You've always been very hospitality minded. I remember when we did Top Chef and we were getting into restaurant wars, and it was like, who wants to work front of house for restaurant wars? And they tell you when you're like, what should I bring for 2 months in this city that I don't live in? They tell you bring one decent outfit just in case you make it to restaurant wars and just in case you have to work front of house. So like, I mean, I had a dress, but I was like, I don't think I'm best suited to working front of house. And when we sat down with our team and you talked about it, you were like, I can do this. Tony made sure that like we are well-versed in the hospitality side of it. I will take that responsibility because that's a big one. Exec chef and front of house manager, like on Restaurant Wars, those are the two that could get cut if anything goes wrong.
Those are the two that go home.
So you were like, no, I got this. And you crushed it. So you've always had like, you know, that hospitality sensibility.
So the two funny things about that, I think I was like, one, I came up in front of the house. So, you know what I mean? I feel comfortable out there. You know what I mean? I feel comfortable talking to people. The other thing is I did not read that part of the thing before we went of like, oh, you should pack a nice outfit. So I didn't know that at all. And so they had to send somebody out to go buy that shirt and jacket for me.
Are you serious? I thought you had that.
I had to like give them cash out of my pocket and be like, yo, this is my size. Somebody go to like Nordstrom Rack, and they bought me a suit coat and like a button down because I didn't have any stuff. All I had was like jeans and white tees because I was like, I'm just wearing a chef coat every day. It doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty much what we all had. I had like 2 pairs of Converse, and that was like except for that one dress.
So like I didn't have any stuff, but like I knew I could do the front of the house thing. But it was funny, you know, because like I think what people don't realize too is like when we're on the show, like how little interaction we have with the judges. Like I think that's what people are always like so surprised to learn because, you know, it's like when we were doing it, like remember like when they'd walk into the room, they'd walk us out of the room. They'd never let us talk to them off camera. So our only interactions with them were at judges' tables or quick fires or whatever. So like they really didn't know us at all.
Yeah.
Like, especially, you know, only halfway through the season, they only got the glimpses of us. And like they weren't watching all our cooks and shit. Like, you know what I mean? So they didn't know, and they weren't watching like our home time at the house. So like when I said I was going to do it, I remember like watching it back and Tom was like, oh, really, Joe?
Yeah,
like, you didn't know me. And
that's what everybody thought.
And like you guys were all like, yeah, man, like have you like met Joe? Like, you know, and it was really,
people
really
on the other team were like, Joe's doing front of house for y'all? We're like, yeah. Like what? Yes. Who else would? Me, Carrie, Bruce? Like, no, come on.
Yeah, fucking juicy Brucey out there, baby. Let's go. But yeah, I thought that was like the funniest part of it. But they had to go buy me stuff. I had no stuff.
I had no idea. That is wild. And you did a great job though. One thing that I remember was like the seating, because with Restaurant Wars, you have a certain amount of time. And when we sat down to go over the flow of service, I was like, let's kind of middle or backload it. So that way me and Carrie are working the line. Bruce was like filling pasta damn near to order for me and Carrie to drop because the prep on the pasta, the filled pasta was behind. We were like, give us a little time to like get used to the pickups on the dish. And then when we talked about it, you were like, well, maybe we can practice the pickups a little more before service starts. But I really think it's important to front load service because if there's any delays during, we're going to run over time. And that turned out to be perfect because the other team did what we had thought initially and backloaded their service. And they went over by like an hour or 45 minutes. It was something crazy. So
my turn times were on point, baby. We were rolling.
Yeah, we got them in, got them out.
We were rolling.
Peter done.
We had that book bumping. We had that room going. The energy, the vibes were high at Conifer.
Speaking of, on the Nina episode, you said that you still have that book.
This is, so I don't have a lot from that season. You know, they don't let us take a lot, but this is our guest book from Conifer, which is, luckily,
is that
Hillary
printed on the front? I can't see.
Yeah,
does it have printed. The logo?
It's the logo of the restaurant.
Oh.
But it's got, you know what I mean? It's still got in it the like seating, which is pretty cool. You know what I mean? Like it's like I probably haven't opened this book since we got back, but it's been sitting, it's been sitting on a shelf for, I mean, man, it's been 9 years, Age.
Oh my God. Has it been that long?
It'll be 9 years in May. That's when we went.
Whoa. It feels like so long, but still so not long ago at the same time.
Yep.
Wow, that's crazy. I love that because I remember that was Carrie's concept, Conifer, like the name, the concept was like a neighborhood place, a nice place in the neighborhood that you can come to with friends anytime. It was like, we were all like, great, we love it. That was such a cool experience. I'm so glad
we all had to pretend like we knew what a conifer was when Carrie was the only one. We're like, she's like, a conifer.
We're all kind of elbowing each other like, what's a conifer?
We're like, what kind of fur? She was like, no, conifer. You're like, okay, is that French for flying goose duck? She's like, no, that's like the kind of trees that grow out here. We're like, yeah.
Wait, wasn't it like a collection of trees?
You know what? It's funny. I have it written. I have it written down in here because I wrote it down because I didn't know what it was. Conifer, any one of a large group of trees or shrubs that bear cones.
Oh, okay, never mind. I wrote
it down. I wrote it down because Carrie said it and I had to pretend like I knew what it was. And so she told me, being Carrie, the nature woman, and knowing all sorts of outdoorsy things that you and I were not privy to.
Speaking of hospitality, because clearly you learned that skill set in hospitality and how to run front of house from somebody. Like we all have a front of house person that we've connected with that's given us lessons, and they are such a big part of our industry. And you're right, like hospitality is equally, if not more important sometimes than the food. I've been to a restaurant, with my sister eating out and like, wow, this is an amazing experience. Came back another time and the food was the same food, but the experience wasn't that good because the front of house hospitality service wasn't as good as the person who we had been cared for by the first time. So that hospitality, like somebody has to kind of explain that to you, especially as a chef. Somebody has to tell you the importance of hospitality. For chefs, we're always like, no, the food is the most important. Like, service. Yeah, you got to do what you got to do. You go through the steps of service, you go through the motions, but it's the food that brings people back. And yes, that is kind of true. It is the food that brings people back, but people remember how you make them feel and they remember that experience. And my mom worked front of house. So that was always something that she talked to me about, but I just wasn't confident being in front of people. I didn't feel comfortable. So front of house just was something I kind of shied away from. But there were people later on at Le Bernardin, like Tommy Jalalia, Ben Chakroon, like two of the best to ever do it, who taught me a lot about hospitality. What's like a hospitality lesson that you learned from someone in your career?
Yeah. And I'm crazy fortunate. I worked for some great ones, even from like, the first place I worked at a bar and grill for my best friend in high school's dad, who's a guy, Pat Doherty. And just like Pat, like understood it. And just like from the connection of the restaurant to the community, he was really big on that and like got it and the regulars. And then when I worked at Table 52, I worked on the front of the house before the kitchen because I didn't have enough kitchen experience. And all the front of the house people there had all come from Trotters. So it was like militaristic front of the house. Like, you know what I mean? It was all these steps of service I'd never even heard of, like, and they were really incredible. And then when I opened Girl and the Goat, and like Boca Group was still, blossoming then. It was still a young, small group. And like watching Kevin Boehm work a floor, whatever it is, this guy has it.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Just could move through a room, like knew where to be. Like, when you watch great chefs work a line and they know where the pressure's coming and they're ahead of it and they know whose station to hop on. Like you watch Kevin do that in the front of the house. You'd watch him make a guest connection like that, like make people feel good so quickly. But really, when I went to 𝗵𝗺𝗄, that was the true masterclass. I mean, they were so good. You know what I mean? The captains there were incredible. Like we had one captain there who he had started there 6 months before I was born.
Wow.
Ernesto, who was just the best, you know what I mean? So he had seen every era. He had worked with, so many incredible chefs. And so he was one of my favorite people to talk to, but they, 𝗵𝗺𝗄 was every little detail. You know what I mean? If they noticed someone was left-handed, like pivot. Like everything went to that person's left hand. When you dropped, you know, an espresso cup after dinner, you made sure you put it on the left side, but you also turned that handle of the espresso cup so that it was facing their left hand.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So they could just pick it up and they would not have to adjust that cup themselves because they shouldn't have to. Those, like, they were so good at that. You know what I mean? Of not asking, but just being ahead of you, of just noticing what you were going to need, and it was already there. You know, I think one of the great things I learned from Ernesto, and I took this into Restaurant Wars, was like, I remember when I first started running the pass in the dining room, I went out to talk to a table, and I was talking to a table. And as I was walking off the floor, he pulled me aside and he said, "Chef, can I speak to you for a moment?" And I said, "Of course." And he said, "Listen," he goes, "you went out and you talked to 32. That's great. They're having a great time. It's amazing." He goes, "But if you go out and talk to 32, say hi to 31 and 33. He goes, "They're all paying the same money. They're all in the same room." He's like, "Otherwise, those tables around them are going to be like, why aren't we special?
Right.
Why aren't we getting attention?"
Yep.
So when we did Restaurant Wars, I didn't focus on the judges' table, which was in the middle of the room. I focused on the tables that were all right around the judges' table. And I made sure I hit them super hard. I made sure they were having the best time. I made sure their food was coming out on time. So that when every time, you know, Gail, Tom, or Padma looked left or right, they were all like, everything's going perfect. Because the tables that are all in my peripheral are laughing. They're eating their food. They're enjoying themselves. They're surrounded by it.
And so do you remember when Pete Wells reviewed, might have been _se or Danielle or something, he mentioned the service that the tables around him were getting. And so people noticed that, like, everybody else is getting lackluster service, but they're fawning over me. And that's diminishing everybody else's experience. And that's never something that you want to feel like, you know, you're causing. And for front of house, that's so important to pay equal attention to everybody.
Right. So it's just, you know, that was like one of those great lessons. I mean, there was a million I learned at 𝗵𝗺 of just, you know, it was truly a masterclass in hospitality from so many people who worked there, from, you know, the wine program, from Rachel Lowe, what she was doing there, to Tony, to, you know, his wife, Kathy Mantuano, who just, like, it was just all the little things that just made you, and it made you excited to like try to push it and be like, okay, what else? What else? What else can we think of? What's another like warm, nice thing we could do? You know, like when it would snow super hard, and, you know, you remember that room, it was like sitting in a snow globe there on Michigan Avenue. So if it was like a slow, snowy night in January, and like you knew tables were done, but like you knew it was going to take them a while to get a car or a cab or whatever, and like even if they had their check ready, we would just drop Amaros and be like, "Why don't you just sit and sip an Amaro and watch the snow for a minute?"
Aww.
And it was like, you know, it's like, costs us nothing, but it's like, it's magical. It's like, hey, you don't need to leave yet. Like, soak this in for a second. Like, it's really special.
One thing that you mentioned that I think goes back to our conversation about restaurateurs and hospitality is a big part of being a restaurateur is also raising money. Right? Like that's something that like we've talked about together, like you and me, and we've talked about with other friends of ours. Raising money to open a restaurant is a huge part of it. You can be a chef who can cook killer dishes, run service like nobody else, build a team, operationally super solid. But if you can't raise money to open that restaurant, you're not going to get to restaurants.
Yeah, I mean, like, you got to sell the dream, right? You know, and like a big part of like, you know, kind of how I run my teams is like, one, like my chef's going to talk at pre-shift, like when we're doing new dishes, you know what I mean? They're going out to talk about those new dishes. And I'm like, hey, you got to like sell this dish to the front of the house. I got something new to sell, something that's great. This is fresh. This is delicious, you know, get them to buy in. And so like, that's part of it. And, you know, I always talk to them about it and they're like, oh, you know, I don't, you know, a lot of chefs will be like, I don't like talking in front of a big group. And I'm like, listen, if you can't learn how to like stand into a pre-shift for just your cooks and be able to speak to them and say what you need to say, or stand in front of a room full of servers, because one day, you know, if this is what you want to do, if you want your own place, you're going to have to stand in front of a room full of people and say, this is the idea.
Yeah, you're going to have to pitch yourself.
This is the concept. Yep. I'm going to open an Italian Croatian restaurant and it's going to be awesome. And you're going to give me a whole bunch of money to do it, even though you don't know me that well.
And even though you've never heard of Italian Croatian cuisine before.
Right, even though you've never heard of Croatian cuisine. I don't know what it is. But like I'm going to get you to believe you can't lose.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge part of it. You know what I mean? Because like you have to go find that money. And it's like, in the arena of restaurants we're in now, even if you want to open something small, you know what I mean? If you want to buy a bar, take it over and flip it on the south side of Chicago, it's going to cost you at least $300,000 for that bar just to buy a building. And then it's like, you're going to have to put $500,000 into it. So now you're 800 in the hole, plus operated expenses and all that. Yep. So it's like minimum. So it's like, you need $1 million. And it's like
$1 million doesn't go as far as it used to in most cities.
Coming off Top Chef, people are like, oh, did you use that money to open a restaurant? It's like, I won $135,000 before taxes. Like,
right.
I couldn't have bought a hot dog cart.
Right.
Like,
maybe I could have paid for the napkins.
Yeah. It's like, it's like, no, I had, no money to put into a restaurant. I've been, working chef, line cook for years. It was like, that just gave me enough money to like put a, down payment on like buying a house.
Right. People have this like misconception about what it's like right after Top Chef. And don't get me wrong, it is a completely different world out there. There's so much more visibility after. It does help your career in so many ways. But people have this like romantic idea that like, oh man, if you come in first, second, third on Top Chef, you're going to be turning down offers to open restaurants. You're going to have people coming up to you left and right. I never had that problem. I wanted that problem. It just never presented itself to me. And after Top Chef, I was like pitching to open a restaurant. And I started pitching before the season was airing because I knew that it would take a while. I was pitching lots of different people, president of a restaurant group to bring me in under the restaurant group, people in finance. I was pitching a lot of different people to raise money to open a restaurant. Now, it was just me by myself. I didn't have partners. I didn't have a front of house counterpart to help me in this. But I was like, why won't anybody give me money? What is the disconnect between the food that I want to do and the concept that I have and people writing checks for it? And I had so many offers. People are like, oh, I invest in this restaurant group or I own this restaurant. I would love for you to come and be our chef.
Right. No. Because they're already in the hole on that one and they want someone to bring it up. Now, if you go in and I think like, when I was pitching people pre-Top Chef, it was a lot of that. It was like, people being like, listen, if you come in, if you run this restaurant for us and it goes well, then we could talk about opening your restaurant. Because everybody, I think when it comes to opening restaurants, it's the biggest thing they want is proof of concept.
Yeah.
So even like winning Top Chef opened a lot of doors for me, but it didn't open every door for me. Mm-hmm. And then it was like, once we opened Rosemary and Rosemary did well, even that, because it was just one, people weren't banging down the door of like, you should open another restaurant. But then when we opened 𝗏𝗏𝗄 and like that started going well and we were doing well with that, then a lot more things opened because now we had proof of concept times two of like, oh, you guys open cool concepts that do well and make sense, right?
This. It's not just one where everybody's like scrambling to just plug the holes every day. It's like, clearly you have systems in place and I feel confident investing in you if you can do two successful places.
Right. So it's like and it's like the fucked up thing of like everything, right? Where it's like the more you have, the easier it is to get it.
Right. And
it's like one is the hardest to get. And it's the same idea of like kind of like when you're a line cook and you're trying to become a sous chef, it seems impossible to become a sous chef until somebody lets you be a sous chef.
Right.
And then once you're a sous chef, you can go be a sous chef anywhere. Right. But it's like somebody has to let you do it. And so, like for me, it's like we talk about these other restaurateurs and like they're scouting talent. Like I had to scout partnership. I had to scout, Like, well, how do I get this money? You know what I mean? How do I find people who are going to give me money, but also give me partnership, give me ownership? You know what I mean? I wanted to be a part of a group. I wanted to start something. And so finding, and that's how I ended up with my partners is like finding people who, one, all had a skill set that I didn't have, from, having a partner who, a background in accounting to, Kara with her background in PR and marketing and, working in the restaurant world in that space to, Frank and legal and all of that and real estate.
Massively important parts of opening
Massively important parts. It's not the cool, sexy stuff.
Right. Nobody's like, oh, he crunches numbers like a boss.
Yeah, like, man, like that Steve, his QuickBooks game is like,
right.
next tier.
Like, but if you have somebody, if you don't have that skill set working with you, you're spending a ton of money on it. And also, if you get somebody bad, you're fucked.
Right. Well, you're spending either a ton of money or a ton of time on.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I dropped out of an accounting degree for a reason. Didn't want to do it. So it's like finding people who are good at the things that, and it's not always like, I feel like you talk to chefs a lot and they're like, well, I can do that or I will do that. It's like, yeah, but like, is that the best use of your time?
Yeah.
Is the best use of my time like sitting in front of a computer for 9 hours, like trying to do all these things, trying to understand all these things? Or is it being in the restaurant, being on the floor, being on the line with my cooks, you know what I mean? Pushing the next menu development stuff, thinking of concepts, and it's like, so it's like we all have our part and like all try to like, you know what I mean? Like set ourselves up to be able to like focus on the things we're really good at from like building the teams around us, you know what I mean? So, so it's like kind of an interesting path of me as like a restaurateur, because it's like, I had to go find that other part of it. And I found 3 people who they needed that other part of it, right? They needed that chef. They needed that restaurant person. They needed, you know what I mean? That. And so it was just, where it worked out. But it's one of the hardest things to do, to find that capital, because it's like people are like, oh, this is what I want to do. I'm going to go just open this restaurant. It's like, cool. Like, where are you going to get that money?
Right.
Because a lot of people tell you like, oh, if you open a restaurant, I got you. And then it's like, okay, cool. Write me a check. And it's like, well.
Oh, you meant like real money. Like when I said I got you, I meant like.
I don't know if I can write you a check for like $500,000 right now. But like, like I'll come when you open.
Right.
Like,
when you're open, I'll be there all the time. I'll bring people in. Huge difference.
Yeah. And it's like, hey, you need both.
Yeah.
No doubt. But it's just, I think it's a crazy part of it that, people don't realize that it's like, it's hard. It's hard. And you have to really sell that dream of like, hey, and not just like, hey, this is a good idea and this is what I want to do and it's going to win awards. But like, when you give me this money, this is how I'm going to get it back to you.
Right.
Like, you got to do that math. You have to have that written out. You have to know that per person average. You have to know how many covers you think you're going to do. You have to know what labor percent you think you're going to run, what food costs you think you're going to be able to do. Like, every little thing. Like, this is what it's going to cost us. This is how many years I think it'll take to pay you back. This is how many years, you know what I mean, I think, till we get a profit. And it's like, the more you can speak to those things. And so it's like something I spend a lot of time talking to, my chefs about, of like, the more you understand all these things, the better chance you have at convincing someone that like you're a good investment.
Right. People are like, you could be a great chef. You could be a not so great chef. I just really care that you will be a good steward of my money. Like that's, yes, I want the place to be cool. And I have confidence that again is the baseline, but I want to know my money's taken care of and you know what you're doing. And if I feel like you don't know food costs, if I feel like you don't know labor costs, you don't know how to manage those, you can be running crazy numbers that don't make sense and losing money year after year with no possibility of paying anybody back.
Mm-hmm. You see it happen all the time.
Yeah, I'm not cutting a check for nobody.
All right, Age.
Is it time?
So I think it's time. Take a trip to the walk-in. And I believe it's your turn.
It's
your turn to grab the deli container, sit down on the milk crate.
Okay. Yeah. Bring a deli. I got a story to tell. Okay. Well, since we're talking about restaurateurs, opening restaurants, I do have a walk-in confession that you may know part of the story, but I don't know if I've ever even told you the full story about this. But, like I said, after Top Chef, I was pitching. I was trying to raise money to open a restaurant. It wasn't happening. I could only spend so long being unemployed pitching. And at the time, I had started working at 𝗚ICE, the culinary school that I went to, teaching classes so that I could have some income during that time. So I'm pitching, I'm teaching class a few days a week. And then all of a sudden I was like, okay, I'm going broke and this is going nowhere. I've been pitching for a year. Something's not connecting. I just got to give it up. And that is when I got the offer when 𝗃𝗺𝗃 called and said, would you do private work? And I was like, hell no. And he said, Adrienne, you're crazy. You'll make good money. You'll be home by 9 o'clock and you'll be off on weekends. Do it for a year or two, save some money, then open your restaurant. I was like, you know what, chef, that's a great idea. So that's when I started doing private work, thinking I'm going to save money towards opening my restaurant. Because as a chef, it's kind of like when you're a kid, you're told like, oh, you get married, you have kids. It's like when you're a chef, you're told, oh, you open a restaurant. It's like, that's the natural path of a career for a chef. So in 2019, after pitching and kind of giving up on that, saving up money, I got an offer from a restaurant group to be the chef partner of a restaurant that was going to open uptown in Harlem in my neighborhood. I can walk there and love the neighborhood, know what the neighborhood needs and what I could contribute to the culinary landscape in my own neighborhood. I was so excited. I was so excited, in fact, that I said, instead of just sweat equity and putting in my name and time and hiring the staff and building the team, I'm also going to put in money. Steven and I were going to put up money for the restaurant as well. And I was this close. I gave notice to my private client. I was finding a replacement. That's how close I was in 2019 to opening a restaurant. Construction was underway. Oof. And then we're negotiating. And Steven was a lawyer, and he was a contract lawyer, mergers and acquisitions. So we're negotiating and we're reading over the contracts. And there were a few things that just we couldn't come together on. The restaurant group would not let me be a 50-50 partner. They wanted to retain 51%, which means I will get overridden on any decision that if we're not seeing eye to eye, I think this is the concept for the restaurant, they can take it somewhere else. I want to do this and hire this person, they can take it somewhere else. So I was like, I'm not comfortable with this. I'm putting in time, money, energy, love, everything. I'm putting my all into this, including like real money, and you won't let me be 50-50. And so I walked away from it.
Damn.
I was like,
did you have a name?
The name was in the works. The name was in the works, and I'm not going to put it out there yet because
no.
You never know. One day,
I'm not gonna press you like that. Maybe if we were actually in Milwaukee, I would press your ass. But damn.
I was that close in 2019, and I told my private client that I was going to leave and find a replacement. He offered me a bump, a pretty sizable bump in salary to consider staying. So I was like, I'm not going to do it. I don't care. I didn't get into cooking for the money. Nobody starts cooking food because they want to become rich. Or maybe some people do now.
Well, I mean, we're so goal oriented in this business where you're like, I'm doing this thing to get to the next thing. I'm being a line cook to be a sous chef. I'm being a sous chef to be exec sous, to be CDC, to open my restaurant. Like everything's a step on the journey, right? And it's all about getting there.
Yeah. And I thought this was going to be the thing that got me there. And I was like, man, I'm finally going to open this restaurant. I'm going back through notebooks that I had for years. I'm writing different menus. I was like so pumped, so excited. But we go on vibes. I'm sorry. Like chefs, when something doesn't feel right, we don't.
Yo, a partnership is a marriage too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like getting into it. It's like, it's not a casual, like, oh, we just work together now. Like we are not coworkers.
Right.
Like we're
in this.
We are, you know what I mean? Like it's a blood bond of like, you know what I mean? Like we are in this together, come hell or high water. And if the high water comes, shit's going to get real weird.
So yeah, it got real. And I was still thinking about doing it. And then the crazy thing, right? The restaurant was under construction. After I said, you know what, this isn't going to be the partnership for me, but I knew a couple friends who were looking for an exec chef role. So I referred them because I thought they would actually be a good fit as a non-equity chef partner to open this place. So I referred a couple people, and one of them became the chef of this restaurant. And let me remind you, this was 2019. Construction's going, something happened, and the designer was like, oh, we don't like the way this looks. Let's push back construction by 3-4 months so we can order new tiles and replace this entryway. Then COVID hit. To this day, that space is sitting empty.
Damn.
Like, I mean,
you know, it'd be like that.
It bees like that sometimes. I dodged a bullet in a lot of ways on that. And as much as I wanted it, I'm glad that I listened to that little voice that said, something's not.
This ain't it.
This isn't the thing. This isn't it.
I truly believe so much of this industry is feel. Is like walking into a space and like knowing, like, this isn't it. I think about like walking into work there and what it would feel like. Like, it's not immeasurable. It's not concrete. It's not some analytical data.
Right.
Where you're like, oh, you know, this makes me feel this percentage of good, so it's going to be a good investment. It's just like, I don't know, dude. It's fucking vibes.
Total vibes.
All right, I mean, the $1 million question though that comes with all of this is, are we going to see an Adrienne Cheatham restaurant one day? Is that still on the docket? Is that something you want? Is that something still at this point in your life where you're like, I want, or it's like, if the perfect opportunity arises, I'd consider it, but it'd have to be like just perfect moment, perfect time. But I'm not like looking at business listings, you know, once a month.
No, I mean, there was a good 5-year period. I had brokers calling me, this space is available, chef. I think this would be a great, you know.
They always think it is. Those brokers always. Like, oh, you would do so well here.
You would kill it here. This is a great space.
Here? Oh.
The hoods are already in place. The build out, you would just have to do cosmetic changes.
Oh, there was a 𝗏𝗏.
Right. That's how they try to get you. Oh, that's how they get you. I don't know.
Maybe a coat of paint. Joe. Maybe a coat of paint. Maybe.
Move the hose stand closer to the front door.
I don't even know.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, that's a tough question. If it were a perfect confluence of all those elements, yes, absolutely. Is that still something that I think about? Yes. I would be lying if I said I don't think about menus occasionally or see seasonal new dishes that I would put on my like dream, you know, my dream restaurant menu. That it's still something I think about, but it's like, I don't know. It's never too late. I mean, the chef in Philly of 𝗏𝗏𝗃, she opened her restaurant at 50. You know, I've still got a ways to go before I get there. So you never know. Like, it's never too late to be clear.
I don't think Missy opened Lilia till, I want to say she was 48, 49, which isn't like old by any stretch of the imagination. But I think it's like, we just have such a skewed perspective of this industry, because then there's like, who's that kid in New York with like Gem, where it's like he opened that at like, you know what I mean? Like
Flynn McGarrity.
Yeah. He opened that at like 18.
Right.
And you're like, what do you mean, dude?
Yeah.
I was like,
I didn't even know what I wanted to do with my life at 18.
Right. We're just like smoking cigarettes and throwing beer cans at each other. Like, so it's such a skewed thing. You know what I mean? So many people do it at so many levels. Like, there's no right time. You know what I mean? There's no biological clock of restaurants.
Right. If the right thing came up, I would definitely do it. I can't say that I would pass up if a really stellar opportunity came up. I don't think I would be able to pass it up if everything felt right, all that, because it is still something that,
correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like what you're saying is, if you found the perfect space in Chicago, you would do it.
Or New York.
Chicago?
I mean,
is that what you
or New York, you know, or Miami. Shit, you know, the market's shifted these days. New cities are doing their thing when it comes to food. So I'm not nearly as wedded even to like one city. Of course, yes, it would be great to have a place in Chicago so I can see my family all the time. I don't know, Joe. I just don't know. We'll put a pin in that one though.
All right. Well, Age, this was a blast. I always love talking restaurants with you. Always fun.
So great to hang out, Joe.
Maybe we'll even cook a little next time you come to Chicago, huh?
That is it for this episode of The Chef's Cut. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening, especially if you're watching us on YouTube, where you can find full-length videos of every episode. and follow us at the Chef's Cut Pod on IG. For Joe Flam, I'm Adrienne 𝗕𝗏𝗄𝗏, and this has been the Chef's Cut, Life Beyond the Pass.